Let's talk about the Black Cat.
Koroff, Lugosi.
It's about gay people.
Oh, okay.
We're here, we're queer, and it's always been that way. This next one is a landmark incident for the gay rights movement, but to lead up to it, let's experiment a little and take a quick look at the gay history of Los Angeles.
Okay.
There's been a gay community here since the native days when gay people were considered to have two spirits living inside them at once, and they were respected and they were honored for it. As the city we now know started to develop, it attracted a lot of gay people because being a young city, it was less established, not bound by the social rules and traditions of the older cities back east.
You were not going to get burned at the stake.
No. You just get killed by the LAPD. So people were able to get away with being a little more free, a little more themselves here.
Yeah.
Tons of old Hollywood movie stars were gay, lesbian, or bisexual. I didn't even, I had no idea.
You had no
Cary
idea.
Grant.
Oh, you didn't know Cary Grant was gay?
I think he was bisexual, but I did not.
Oh, really? Okay.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I
Communist.
I will never watch North by Northwest again. He faked all
At least
those
not
kisses.
the same way. So in June 1947, a woman who went by the name Lisa Ben rearranged those letters, and you'll get it. I'll give you a minute.
Funny. It's also a man and woman's name.
She was a secretary at RKO, and she used the office equipment available to her at her job to print Vice Versa, America's gayest magazine.
Oh, vice versa.
Yeah, it was the first regular gay newsletter in the United States.
Do you think that's why I know about it?
Well, obviously.
Because you're gay, right?
So in 1950, a man named Harry Hay, who I'm sure we'll get into in a future episode, he founded the Mattachine Society at his house on Cove Avenue in Silver Lake, which is credited with starting the modern gay rights movement. In 1952, One magazine started in LA with their first issue coming out. Get it? January 19th, that's not it. It came out January 1953, making it the first national gay magazine. There was also organizations and social clubs like the Satyrs Motorcycle Club, started in 1954, which was made up of gay World War II vets and is now one of the longest running gay organizations in the country. They're also credited with playing a big part in creating the leather community because they were bikers.
Oh.
Yeah. Gay clubs and bars. Have you ever seen a leather daddy?
I've seen Two Leather Brothers.
Gay clubs and bars were a big deal because they provided a haven where gay people could come and be themselves after having to hide it from the rest of the world the whole day. So going into the 1940s, there were gay clubs like Brothers off of Central Avenue, and even Club Alabama, also off Central Avenue, which we talked about in the Central Avenue episode, had regular drag shows. By 1966, there were 80 gay bars in LA. But just because they were meant to be safe havens didn't mean that they were always safe places.
Yeah.
Gay was considered a mental illness until 1971, and sodomy was illegal in California until 1975. So cops used to pick on gay people. That's putting it lightly. Pick on them with bullets. They would entrap gay men. I guess they would pretend to be gay themselves, and then when they tried to kiss them or something, they'd be like, oh, you're under arrest. I like this. You're under arrest for stealing my heart. Thief. So they'd charge you with some bogus minor charge and then a lewd conduct charge. So you could either take the minor charge and pay the fine, or the lewd one and have to register as a sex offender.
Jeez.
On top of that, if word got out that you were arrested for this sort of thing, you would lose your job and your family would probably disown you.
Could we use the word blacklist for that?
Pink list.
Okay. It's
rainbow list. So cops were doing this so often in the late 40s and 50s that part of the Lincoln Heights jail was...
The haunted one?
The haunted one was dedicated to gay criminals and referred to as the fruit tank.
I don't like that at all. That is not a nice term for that.
Cop humor. It's funny. It's funny laugh.
When we beat them, we'll say it.
Fruit tank, fruit tank.
1, 2, 3. Oh, this one's dead.
2. So this was the climate coming into the year 1967, but there was one part of town that was a gay social hub, the Sunset Junction area where Sunset meets Santa Monica and Silver Lake. Yeah. In the 60s, there were tons of gay bars there, and more would come and go every month. Cops would regularly come into these bars in plain clothes to make arrests or just to keep tabs. Maybe they were just curious.
They seem happy. They're holding hands. They seem like
That's
they found
why we
love.
call them gay.
Because they're happy and I want to be.
The gay bar owners had even formed the Bar Owners Guild to fight fight the entrapment and to keep their patrons safe.
Oh, cool.
Some places they would give cues, like when they recognized a cop coming into the bar, they would do something like they would play God Save the Queen and things like that, and people would be like, all right, party's over, time to leave.
I like that sort of like speakeasy code stuff. Yeah, that's cool.
But for the couple years pre-1966-67, there hadn't been that many bar raids, but then Ronald Reagan, the actor, he was elected governor. The governor? And the local police station in the area with its newly elected chief wanted to impress Reagan and make a name for himself, so the raids started back up again. What station was that, you ask?
What station was that, I ask?
The Rampart Police Station. At it again for the
long
first time.
History of being corrupt and mean to everybody.
So now that takes us to December 31st, 1966, New Year's Eve. It's not a leap year. A bar at 3903 Sunset Boulevard had only been open for 2 months, the Black Cat. So there's a big party there for New Year's, people having fun. A band called the Rhythm Queens was playing.
Cool.
There had been a costume contest earlier in the night down the street at the New Faces Bar, which is where Circus of Books now is.
Oh.
So because of that, there were some 15 or 20 guys in drag in the Black Cat. Also inside were about 12 plainclothes cops, keeping a repressed eye on everything that was going on.
What's the priest that? What is it? Shorts, those are too short.
Where are the ladies? So it gets to that time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! And then, since it's New Year's, some of the men start kissing. One kiss in particular set them off was a woman who was there kissed her brother who was there in drag dressed as a woman. This made the cops very angry. It confused them. One of the cops grabbed one of the cooks who had been kissing and tried to lead him out the back door to arrest him, but the door was locked. So he started moving him toward the front door. This caused a commotion as he started to resist being dragged away by this man who had never identified himself as a cop.
Yeah.
Then a few of the bar patrons started to fight back, again, not knowing that this guy was a cop. Then, about 5 minutes past midnight, all hell broke loose.
It's a hell of a way to start 1969.
67.
Oh, 67.
One of the other cops grabbed a pool cue and smashed one of the guys in drag over the head with it. Then more people got involved in the fight, and all the rest of the cops, all the 8-ball in the corner pocket, all the rest of the cops tore down the New Year's decorations, and they just started grabbing and beating down whoever they could.
No New Year's for nobody. Nobody gets New Year's.
No more progress. They started beating them with pool cues, billy clubs. Guys started getting dragged outside, but a couple guys ran to the New Faces bar to hide, but the cops followed them there.
It sounds like Michael Myers is a cop.
He's out there, I swear. When the cops barged in, they asked who owned the place, and the person who owned it was a woman named Lee Roy. So then she came out, and they thought, here we go again, another guy in drag named Leroy. So they started beating her.
Oh, Leroy, I'm sorry.
They broke her collarbone, left her bloody on the street before they realized, oh my God, it's a woman. Oh my God, it's a woman. Oh wait, it's a woman.
We should have beat her 2 minutes less.
So while they were in there, they also grabbed the bartender, dragged him across the bar over broken glass, proceeded to break his jaw, his skull. They ruptured his spleen and didn't give him medical attention for 22 hours. This whole ordeal lasted about 10 minutes. Then 5 cop cars showed up at the Black Cat to take in the 16 people laid out on the sidewalk under arrest to the brand new Rampart Police Station. Many of those arrested were in drag because that sort of evidence would elicit the strongest response in the people who hate gay people who would be, On the plus side, 2 of the cops had been hospitalized. And not just for broken hand vessels this time. By 1 p.m., January 1st, all of the arrested had made bail and they were released, but the police harassment didn't stop there. Over the weekend of January 7th and 8th, the Ram's Head in Silver Lake and the Stage Door on 6th Street were also raided. From January 2nd to the 20th, cops were staking out and going into New Faces every night, so people were too afraid to come in until the bar closed on the 21st after having been open for 5 years. The Black Cat got their liquor license suspended and tried for 5 months to get it back until they closed on May 21st, all while the cops warned that if any of them tried to fight back, they were going to shut down every single gay bar in the city. Then come January 26th was the trial for those arrested in the Black Cat raid. Money was raised for their defense by several gay organizations, but still finding a lawyer was tricky because most lawyers feared that if they represented a gay client, people would think that they themselves were gay, and you just can't have that.
And how am I supposed to explain myself? No, I'm not gay. I like the ladies. I like the way I smell.
Sure, I wonder every once in a while, but who doesn't? They did find a lawyer in Herbert Selwyn.
Herbert Selwyn, yay!
But the court was obsessed with hearing about the kissing that had taken place. They were so obsessed with the people on trial were like, They were beating us. Like, those cops there were beating us, and they're like, yeah, but who was kissing who?
How much lipstick did you have on?
What is it like? Like, how do you know? Like, how do you know when a guy's going to be into it? And they just kept bringing up the kissing. They're like, let's talk about the kissing. In the end, 9 were cleared of charges. 1 had a hung jury because he claimed to be straight and made a big show of kissing a woman in the halls between sessions, so everyone got confused. They didn't know what to think. 4 were charged with kissing someone of the same sex for 2 to 3 seconds. 1 was charged for 10 to 15 seconds worth of kissing.
My God, you're
1 was charged with a peck on the neck.
This is ridiculous.
Repression court is in session. In other words, they were convicted of lewd conduct. Of these, 2 had to register as sex offenders. Charles Talley.
Tally me banana.
He wished he could tally a few bananas.
He never got the chance to.
And Benny Baker. They took the case to the California Court of Appeals, who wouldn't hear it. Then they went to the U.S. Supreme Court, wouldn't hear it. However, the lawyer Selwyn was arguing that these men should be granted equal rights under the 14th Amendment, making this the first time in U.S. history that a homosexual fought in court that they deserved the right to be equally protected by the Constitution as a heterosexual was. This was the first time that ever happened. They lost, but still, the seed was planted as it always is. But the story doesn't end there because we haven't even gotten to a protest yet, so it can't. The timing of this was perfect. If you could call it perfect. Just 3 months before the Black Cat raid, cops had beaten up a bunch of anti-Vietnam hippies on the Sunset Strip. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's the usual everyday stuff going on with the LAPD against Latinos, African Americans. Yeah. So there was a multi-location demonstration planned for February 11th, 1967. And after what had just happened to the gay community, they were like, oh, us too. I want to be part of it. Yeah. So the group that made this was Personal Rights in Defense and Education, or PRIDE. PRIDE was started in 1966 by Steve Ginsburg in LA, and it was a gay rights group.
Wait, go one more time, repeat what PRIDE stood
for? Personal Rights in Defense and Education.
That's great.
They were kind of radical, totally tubular, and they're where the term gay pride comes from their name, Pride.
That's great.
They also had a newsletter that after the Black Cat raid was taken over by Richard Mitch, Bill Rao, and Sam Winston, who revamped it into a magazine that they printed at the print shop of ABC where Rao worked, and they renamed it Pride Advocate, then the Los Angeles Pride, and now today you know it as The Advocate. So that's where that came from. Pride attempted to rally the troops, but do tell these troops, telling its members to join Negroes, Mexicans, hippies against the establishment war on minorities.
I'm making a fist right now.
But a lot of people were just too scared to join in because they were afraid of the violence that they had seen the police committing, which is something that should never happen in this country, that people are afraid to do anything. But the organizers took that into consideration. Part of the reason they wanted to demonstrate on the same day as all the other groups was because then the police force would be spread thinner across the city, and there would be less risk of violence.
It wouldn't have 19 cops beat me up. I have like 6.
Yeah, I could deal with that. Yeah. So February 11th came with protests by hippies on the Sunset Strip, African Americans in Watts, and Latinos in Pacoima and Boyle Heights, and a reported crowd of between 300 to 600 LGBT and LGBT supporters at Sunset and Hyperion, right next to the Black Cat, formed with people holding signs like Peace in Silver Lake. It was being monitored by about 50 cops, but they kept the protest so orderly so they wouldn't give the cops any excuse. Like, they wouldn't even, like, don't throw your gum wrapper on the floor.
No eye contact.
Don't give them anything. Yeah. They were too scared to even announce that this was a gay rights protest, so they said, we won't say who we are tonight, but look around. We promise that after tonight, the love that dare not speak its name will never be quiet. They were speaking, of course, of Lord Voldemort. So the protest ended without any more violence, and this whole incident was mostly forgotten. The Stonewall riots in New York City, they get all the credit with being the start of the LGBT rights movement, but that happened 2 years after what happened at the Black Cat. So this wasn't the first gay rights demonstration in the country. It was definitely the first in California, and it was the biggest one that had happened so far. This was where gay people decided that they weren't going to take it anymore. One of the religious newspapers in town at the time warned its readers that homosexuals, who have always been dependably meek, are fighting back. The stand at the Black Cat paved the way for 1968 when Reverend Troy Perry started his very gay-friendly Metropolitan Community Church in Huntington Park. Then the first gay-in started happening in Griffith Park, and then Stonewall happened, and then LA had the first Pride Parade in 1970. So it can really all be traced back to the Black Cat. Some people compare that place to a place like the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which sounds kind of silly because it's a bar in Silver Lake. But when you think about it, it's not really, because just like African Americans, gay people had to fight to where they are now, and this is where it started. The Black Cat became many different bars over the years, but it wasn't until 2008 state that it was designated a historic cultural monument, and it got a plaque that incorrectly designates it as the location of the first LGBT demonstration in the country. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It is, however, the first gay historical site in California. As of 2012, the Black Cat is back in existence. This time it's just a restaurant by the same people who do the Village Idiot. But my favorite part of this whole story is that, in a way, the whole gay rights movement was started by the Rampart Police Department. The ultimate irony.
Because they don't like anybody.